Live from WTVO Rockford and your home team. Eyewitness News at 5 starts now.
5 people are in jail tonight accused of kidnapping and beating a man, then leaving him naked in a field.
Safety advocates say awareness will save lives when it comes to a popular form of transportation. Recent accidents bring attention to being careful.
And being prepared. We take a look at how Winnebago County plans for any kind of emergency. Good evening, I'm Mimi Murphy.
And I'm Eric Wilson. 5 people are charged, accused of kidnapping a man, beating him, and leaving him on the side of a Rockford-area road naked. He's
now recovering in the hospital. On Tuesday, he was found in the area of Samuelson and Alpine Roads in Winnebago County. He told deputies it all started at a house on Nina Terrace off of West State Street. The man said he was caught at that house with the girlfriend of Alan Hawkins. He told deputies as he was leaving, Hawkins fired a shotgun in the air, so he started running. That's when a van pulled up and 5 people, including Hawkins, beat the man and forced him into the van. The victim says the group continued to beat him while driving around. They eventually let him out without his clothes near Alpine and Samuelson, where he says they continued to beat him and threatened him with a machete. 42-year-old Hawkins, along with Connor Steffler, Lisa Lies, Kyla Lee, and Kylie Farmer, are all facing several felony charges.
Officers arrest a Rockford man spotted outside a local thrift store he's accused of robbing twice. Back on June 6th, police say a man stole money from an open cash register at Rockford's Salvation Army store on East State Street. Just 13 days later, officers responded to the store again. Employees say the same man, Darian Coleman, tried taking money from the register. When the cashier blocked him, witnesses say Coleman shoved that person, grabbed the money, and ran. Then Tuesday, detectives spotted Coleman near the store and took him into custody. The 27-year-old is charged with aggravated robbery and burglary.
A 16-year-old dies after crashing his dirt bike into a semi-truck. Rock County Sheriff's deputies say the teen was riding in Carver-Roll County Park yesterday afternoon. A semi pulling a flatbed trailer was driving on South Carvers Road when the dirt bike smashed into the side of the truck. The teen died on the scene. That's one of several deadly crashes involving teens and dirt bikes, ATVs and UTVs this year.
ATV advocates say many of those accidents can be prevented. Mikel Delgado talked with a longtime participant of the sport. Mikel, he believes each incident like this affects all riders.
That's right, Eric and Mimi. I'm told the ATV and UTV community is really pushing to bring more safety awareness when operating these machines.
It really hurts to see when someone gets hurt. I've seen some accidents, and most of those were people that were exceeding their own abilities, exceeding speed limits, exceeding what the local ordinances are. So that it really impacts all the riders that are around here.
Phil Anders is a member of the 815 Off-Road Adventures and Ogle County Off-Road Riders. For the past 8 years, he's driven his machines all across different terrains all over the country. Phil tells me it hits home seeing others get hurt.
Really making a movement of trying to make people more aware of what we do, how we ride, and safety's a big portion of that.
Phil has a checklist he does every time he goes out. Make sure there's nothing loose or damaged, check the tires and the fuel level, and keep a fire extinguisher on hand.
You have your helmet, you have your safety harnesses, you have your extra supplies if you're caught out in the wilderness. You have communication gear. We keep a satellite communicator when we're way out outside of civilization. The biggest thing is to keep up with what your machine's doing.
Phil also stresses it's not just you. You're sharing the trail with others.
It's very easy to, around corners and heavy brush and trees, not to see someone on the other side of the trail. You really have to be aware of the ever-changing trails, the paths that you're taking, and you need to be aware and sober to do that.
In Rockford, it is illegal to ride ATVs and UTVs on the street, but in smaller towns like Byron, it's okay. Phil recommends ATV and UTV operators to take an online safety course. Eric?
Thanks, Nicole. The Winnebago County Emergency Operations Center unveils an almost $500,000 in upgrades. County leaders use the EOC to respond to and mitigate emergencies. It connects many different departments across Winnebago County, as well as communicates with neighboring counties. The upgrades are mainly paid for with American Rescue Plan funds. Those who work in the center say the remodel was long overdue.
So over the past year, we've updated all the technology in the Emergency Operations Center. So that's new TV monitors, new computers, new phone system, new internet connection, and really hadn't been done since the building was new back in 2007. So as you can imagine, a lot of those computers and TVs were obsolete and no longer working. So it was definitely a needed upgrade.
Recently, the EOC was used for high-profile disasters like the tornado and storms back in March, as well as the Chemtool fire a couple of years ago.
Some law enforcement officers learn how to build bombs today. It's to make sure they know how to get rid of them to keep you safe. All bomb techs go through the FBI's training course to become certified on how to handle them. In that training, they learn how to make improvised explosive devices or homemade bombs. The goal is to teach officers how they work in case they ever encounter one out in the field. And with these skills, the FBI hopes agencies can keep their communities safe.
For all the public safety bomb techs, we're giving this training to give them another tool in their tool bag to be able to defeat these devices. So our partnership is huge. Anything that we can do to help make sure that those bomb techs are safe and their area of responsibility for the people in there are safer, we're going to give them those tools.
The FBI does other trainings for law enforcement, including teaching them how to handle weapons of mass destruction. Tomorrow, NBA star Fred VanVleet will be back home.
He's hosting a block party in downtown Rockford. From 4 until 6, you can head to East State Street for an afternoon of basketball, bounce houses, music, and vendors. Because of the party, East State will be closed from Madison to 1st Street starting at 3. Drivers who need to get through downtown can use Jefferson or Chestnut. The road should be back open by 7 that night.
The search for a missing sub comes to an end as crews find debris from the Titan.
Coming up, the Coast Guard reveals what investigators think happened to the vessel and the people inside.
And tonight at 6, history buffs and car lovers, listen up. A museum right here in the state line has just the thing for you. We'll take you there coming up in tonight's Destination Illinois.
There's another hot one out there this afternoon as temperatures climbed back to the upper 80s, low 90s. We can expect that heat to continue at least into the start of the weekend, but by the end, we could be talking some rainfall. We'll look at when to expect that and how much could come down coming up in your most trusted forecast a little later.
You're watching Eyewitness News, your home team with Eric Wilson, Mimi Murphy, Scott Leber, and Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
The 5 people inside the missing submersible near the wreck of the Titanic are presumed dead.
Searchers found a debris field more than 2 miles underwater. U.S. Coast Guard's been leading the effort and says that.
Now, your first warned weather forecast from Chief Meteorologist Candace King.
Latest drought monitor from the National Drought Mitigation Center continues to show moderate drought conditions across all of northern Illinois, severe drought through northeast and central Illinois, and then those dry conditions continuing a little further downstate. So all across the board, we are dealing with a drought, and as we continue to see the lack of rainfall, that will only continue to expand here across the state line. Severe drought conditions developing across parts of southwest Wisconsin, moderate drought through central and southern Wisconsin too. I am holding out hope that we see some rainfall going Saturday night into Sunday. Not too convinced that it'll put a decent dent in the deficit of rain that we've developed here for the month of June and really extending back through May as well. So far for June, we have had under a ½ inch of rainfall, and when we look at this from the beginning up until now, this puts us at the 4th driest June on record, which is fairly significant when you look at some of these dates here, 1922, 1933, and 1988. Now, drought, something that's kind of unique. We think back to 2021 when we had dry conditions develop once we got into spring and really picked up through the summer. But then you also go back to 2012 and 1988 when we had severe drought conditions. And while we see some rainfall and precipitation outside of the growing season that that does help leading into the growing season. So drought kind of is a little different when you look at different seasons and how much precipitation, let's say, we got through the winter season or early spring, and when those dry conditions developed. But as the old saying goes, when in drought, it's hard to get out. And I've mentioned this before because it's just a cycle that feeds upon itself. And a lot of times when that drought develops and it gets worse, not only does it lead to those hot conditions, but it also leads to the lack of rainfall, and it's just a continuous cycle. So how does this happen? Well, your drought develops, it worsens. That dries out the soil, which in turn dries out the surrounding air mass. The plants that are outside are trying to conserve that moisture. So instead of releasing that moisture into the atmosphere through transpiration, they're conserving it because they need it for themselves. That only in turn continues to dry out the air mass. So when you get storms that come through or the chance for rainfall, it does rain, but a lot of that begins to evaporate. So that's why I'm hopeful going into the weekend we are able to see that chance for rain in a couple of thunderstorms, and if all kind of comes to fruition, maybe a ½ an inch up to 3/4 of an inch. So not enough to really kind of push us out from where we are, but we'll take whatever we can get. No rainfall out there tonight. Temperatures are in the mid and upper 80s, still hitting a couple of 90s in a few spots. Terry, our weather watcher in Genoa, 88 degrees, relative humidity at 34%, a northeasterly wind coming in at 12 miles per hour. Lots of sunshine, some fair weather cumulus clouds out there this afternoon. Our skies will clear out as we go through the night as high pressure continues to remain in control. We may see a few clouds from time to time, but otherwise things will be fairly quiet for us here as we go through the night. Temperatures back down around 60. We are back into the upper 80s, low 90s for tomorrow. More of the same. Cloud cover pops up. Again, Futurecast bringing in very spotty light precipitation. Just like today, I don't think that is necessarily going to happen. We'll just see those fair weather cumulus clouds for the afternoon. We are dry and hot on Saturday, 93, but after midnight, storm complex to the west moves through. That holds out some hope here for some rain going into Sunday. And then we do have to watch the potential, guys, for some stronger thunderstorms with a cold front Sunday afternoon, and then dropping the temperatures just a little by next week.
Candace, thanks.
Reagan's in next with sports.
The final countdown is on to the 2023 NBA Draft. We'll watch the action unfold right here on WTVO at 7. Up next, Reagan shows us what we can expect.
Now sports with Reagan Holgate.
We are just a few short hours away from the start of the 2023 NBA Draft, a year that has been full of pretty intriguing storylines, starting at the top with one of the most hyped projects.
Our first Warren Interactive Radar brought to us by Rockford Auto Glass and More stays pretty quiet here for tonight. May see some rainfall move in for the weekend. 60 tonight, 91 tomorrow, 93 Saturday. Some showers, thunderstorms Saturday into Sunday.
Thanks, Candace.